Good evening. My name is Andrew Austin, and welcome to another edition of A Change in Guyana, where the change you seek begins with you. Remember, you can call in on tonight's show at 218-4949 or 218-1890 if you have questions for me or tonight's guest. Tonight's guest is Ms. Colleen Abrams. Ms. Colleen Denise Abrams is the CEO and administrator of Maritime Marine Institute, located in the Crystal Labor College campus. Maritime Marine Institute is Guyana's first maritime training institution, and over the past 19 years, it has been instrumental in training and certifying hundreds of seafarers. As an entrepreneur and educator, Colleen Abrams brings to the table over 15 years of experience, having been a lecturer at the Sir Arthur Lewis College in St. Louis. She holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Guyana and postgraduate certificate in business administration from the Australian Institute of Business. She also earned a certificate with emphasis on strategic human resource management from the Institute of Commercial Management in the United Kingdom. Ms. Abrams lends her experience as an advisor on maritime education and training, crewing and recruitment, and logistical management to those in need. Her experience has guided her in the creation of strategic partnerships and synergies towards forming meaningful linkages across the maritime industry, regionally and internationally, as well as within the emerging oil and gas sectors. Congratulations on a successful career that continues to grow and develop. I think it's safe to say you're a pioneer in the Guyana maritime industry. Welcome, Ms. Abrams, to tonight's show. And I hope that you can educate us and help us understand a whole lot more about the maritime industry in Guyana. Can you share some of your company's rich history with us tonight?
Good night to our viewing audience. Thank you, Mr. Austin, for having me on your show tonight, A Change in Guyana. Indeed, the change that we seek is a change that we ought to see and that we will eventually become. I thank you so much for having me on the show this evening, because I'm sure we can have a conversation that speaks to issues that are very dear to our hearts, even as we are also a part of the maritime industry here in Guyana. So let's have a conversation.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be happy to.
Yes. Maritime Marine Institute. It's actually Guyana's maritime industry where persons, prospective seafarers as well as seafarers, can have that opportunity to gain training and education in order to assist them in gaining employment within Guyana's maritime industry, within the regional maritime industry, and internationally. Maritime Marine had its genesis in 1999. That's actually when the school started here in Guyana on the 5th of October 1999. So MATPAL is 19 years and counting. It was the brainchild of two former deck officers who came out of the Transport and Harbors Department system. Those two young officers at the time saw the need for Guyanese seafarers to be given the opportunity to obtain training and certification to help them to be on par with their peers within the region and even to do a little better what they would have been doing here in Guyana. Hence, that passion that they had was translated into the training and certification that emanated from MATPAL at the time. So after 1999, MATPAL Marine gained the certification, the approval actually, from the then Caribbean Maritime Institute of Jamaica to offer courses like the Basic Safety Training course, Basic Tanker course. And then in 2007, even after those courses had gotten underway and training had started to pick up, persons were becoming more enthused about the training that was being offered. In 2007, MATPAL sought and gained the approval from the Panama Maritime Training Services to allow for further training of persons who worked on board vessels in the deck, engine room, and galley areas. And so MATPAL has been offering that training to persons who are already engaged on board ship, as well as those new entrants into the industry who want to make seamanship a career or who have a passion for seamanship. And we are proud to say that over the years, we have been training in excess of 100 to 150 persons in the various courses that they need in order to be employed on board vessels, both regionally, locally, and also internationally. So wherever you see a Guyanese, whether it be at a local port or an international port, MATPAL Marine Institute would have had some part to play in the life of that individual, in the life of that crew member, towards allowing them the opportunity to work on board and to gain the experience they need to further enhance the maritime industry.
I see. That's very commendable. I've met several seafarers inside and outside of Guyana who've actually benefited from attending your courses. So thank you very much for what you do. What are some of the services you provide to mariners?
MATPAL Marine offers a variety, a wide range of services in terms of the training offerings. For someone starting at, let's say, the most basic level within the maritime industry, there is one of the courses, the core course that they need to be involved in or be engaged in, and that is commonly known as the, well, not commonly, because people commonly call it the STCW course, but the correct name for that course is the Basic Safety Training. Now, the Basic Safety Training is a 4-part course that speaks to safety, security, awareness for seafarers. So once someone is registered to participate in that Basic Safety Training course, that person will be involved in aspects of basic firefighting, basic first aid, personal survival techniques, and personal safety and social responsibilities. Now, over those areas of training, that person becomes familiar with what is required of them as an individual embarking on board seagoing service or embarking on board training to be involved in seagoing service. For those modules, each of them has a theoretical and practical components. So what it actually does is equip an individual with the necessary training in order to be familiar. So once they get on board a ship, what they'll be doing on board is just a reflection of and a build on what they would have done in class once they would have gone through that training period. And so that's one of the courses that we offer. MATPAL Marine Institute also offers courses for persons working on board tanker vessels, which is the basic training for oil and chemical tankers. And while that is specialized training, it allows persons who would have gone through the basic training to now become a little more specialized in what they do, so that it widens their range of experience, it widens their opportunities also for employment. So whereas the basic safety and the security awareness would have allowed them to work, let's say, on cargo vessels, on tug and barges, and other such vessels, with the additional training in tanker familiarization, they are now able to operate on vessels that are carrying very volatile cargo, which is, in the case, the tanker vessels, what they offer. Then we have persons who are being trained in the rudiments of the watchkeeping for deck and engine room ratings. And for these courses also assist persons who would have gone through the basic, would have gained enough sea time or experience to now continue to lift the bar in terms of the areas that they can work and the level to which they can carry their work. I must say that within the maritime industry, within the training that we offer, persons, the way it works actually is that certification and experience allows a seafarer to move from one level to a next. And so that's how it works in the industry. The training is complemented with experience or sea service, and that allows them to move up the ladder. Then we have courses that we offer for persons who are already officers, but they want to perhaps improve on what they do and they want to raise the bar in terms of moving up the levels. So we also offer training for them. I should also let us discuss and converse on the fact that the training that we offer is not only at the international level, but we also offer training at the local level. So lest a person may think, well, you know, I may not be able to work internationally, or I am already involved, or I plan to get involved in the local arena. Maritime Marine Institute also offers training at the local level. Some of those being the basic training, basic safety training for speedboat operators. And I would wish to elaborate on that a little later, because I think it's very necessary that we share with the public, that I share with the public what that course entails. Then we offer training for our fisher folk, because we know that our fishing industry is a very large industry, an old one, a growing one, but a very vital one. And so we also offer training for our fisher folk. Then we offer training for persons working on our coastal vessels, those plying the various riverine areas. So no one is left out in the training that is offered through Maritime Marine Institute. Everyone is catered for.
Well, thank you. I know there are many people out there tonight who's looking at tonight's show. They're wondering, how do I access this information? How do I get this information? How do I get to MatPal? How do I get into the industry? What would you tell those people who would like to get into the industry in terms of what they need to prepare, what's required for them to actually become a seafarer and start at a basic level? Because in the industry, of course, you have to start at the bottom unless you are a licensed officer. You're coming from one of the academies that's mostly overseas. In Guyana, you have to start at a basic level. How do they access that information?
That's quite a good question to ask. It's a valuable question, because I'm sure many persons, well, even before I answer that, there is this feeling, and I guess it's a little more than a feeling, but from my own interaction with persons, it would appear as if enough persons are not aware of maritime training that's actually offered here in Guyana. When persons hear of maritime training, they think, you know, we have to go overseas, we have to spend lots of money, you know, because this thing is something that is, as we say in local parlance, it's foreign. Mm-hmm. But it is great, it's good, and it's reassuring for persons to know that the training that they seek in order to be engaged in the maritime industry is actually being offered right here at Maritime Marine Institute. So, how does a person become involved, or how does a person actually start their career? Maritime Marine caters to persons who are coming in to the maritime industry at various levels. Someone may feel, you know, a young male or a female, and yes, a female, because females are coming into the industry now more than in the years gone by.
As they rightly should.
As they rightly should, yes. It's a wide open field, so females are very welcome. But as a young person wishing to make a career out of seamanship, that person may come with, let's say, their CXC school leaving certification, or perhaps even a craft certificate. Maybe they may have gone to one of the tertiary institutions and they come in with one of the craft certificates. The place for you to start is with the basic safety training and the ship security awareness training being offered at MatPal. Actually, one of the governing bodies within the maritime industry, and that's one of the bodies that we also conform to, that's the standards set out by the International Maritime Organization. They have actually set certain specifications or requirements for persons entering into the maritime industry at a basic level, so that no one is left out. As long as you have attained an average level of literacy, you are eligible to enter. You must be at least 18 years or over, have an average literacy level, willing to make a career out of seamanship, and there's a place for you in the maritime industry. So less persons feel, you know, I probably don't have my CXCs, or I probably don't have a degree, or I probably don't have a certificate from, let's say, one of the technical institutes, and therefore I don't have a place in the maritime industry. Let it be known, there is a place for you there. Once you have the wherewithal, you have the will, you have an average level of literacy, MATPAL Marine Institute will offer you the training you need to get you involved. It is also noteworthy that MATPAL also offers remedial courses in mathematics and English. So for persons who may be coming and, you know, they're a little uncomfortable with reading and writing, we also help to prepare you at MATPAL so that you have a nice, smooth transition into the maritime industry, even as you pursue training and certification to get you on board ship.
I see. That kind of was leading me to another question, but I guess you kind of answered it for me, which was, if I am not strong academically, how do I access this? Because there are quite a few people here. A lot of the sugar estates have closed. You now have people who are looking for alternate careers, and I think, especially with oil and gas being on the horizon, it is critical that people understand what's required to get into that arena. And being offshore, getting on a vessel, having to go out to sea, you're required to have a lot of these types of certificates. What are you doing? What steps can you put in place to help those people, like the cane farmers and the other people who are not academically strong, get into that industry? Besides the remedial training that you do for the math and the English, is there something like a TVET kind of a program that you can assist people with?
As a maritime institution, we can point them in the direction of the TVET courses, because the TVET courses are offered by other institutions locally, but we can actually guide them, advise them, and, you know, push them along those lines so that they can also benefit from those TVET courses. So what we mostly do are the professional courses that are geared specifically for entrance into the industry. But certainly, those courses are also available to them, and what we will provide is the guidance so that persons come in with an interest, we can assist them so that they can actually complete what are the required courses needed, and then do the courses that MATPAL offers so that there's a nice smooth transition for them, and so that they are not left out even in the stream of things as it relates to employment within the maritime industry.
I guess I must make it clear that even if you took a TVET course, you still are not qualified, you're not certificated to be able to go on a vessel and work. So TVET is not the beginning and the end. I guess it's one way of helping people to get prepared to go over to MATPAL, then to be able to work at sea. How long is that training for people who want to get into the industry? How long is the training for them to become certificated?
So the courses at MATPAL are of varying durations, but let us focus a little on the entry-level courses, which are the basic safety again. The basic safety is a 7, 8 to 2 week training program. So you will be covering all the theoretical and practical components of that course within that period. You know, sometimes people may, we have the experience. You know, lots of experienced persons they come to inquire, and they may say, you know, but how can we cover the syllabus or the various syllabi within that time frame? And it's amazing to note that the way the courses are structured allows them to cover that and more within the time frame, so that even though it's accelerated, it's done at a pace where persons and the way the courses are actually developed allow for persons to interact. It's very interactive. And of course, because the practical complements the theoretical parts of the course, of those modules within the course, it allows persons to gain the knowledge in order to be prepared to enter the world of work within the maritime industry. So for that course is one that's 8 days to 2 weeks. And as I said before, it covers some components that are necessary for them getting on board. And so persons who may come may think, you know, hey, we can't make it in this time. We want them to know that Maritime Marine Institute follows the regulations set out by the International Maritime Organization. And I do believe when IMO, which is the short form of the International Maritime Organization, when IMO would have been developing the standards governing these courses, they were doing it with persons like these in mind. So that persons who are not at the level that they need to be can still be involved in the training at a level that's simplified, so that they can have a part to play and they can be a part of the training that's being offered.
I guess I should also say that the rules of as defined by the International Maritime Organization is enforced here in Guyana by the Guyana's Maritime Administration. So I guess you also have to be in compliance with their rules and regulations, which of course are those mostly of IMO, except for local tweaks to those laws. But for the most part, they are ensuring that anyone gets into this industry doing what you're doing has to be in compliance with the International Maritime Organization. What you're doing now, we've got oil and gas on the horizon, as I mentioned earlier. Have you seen an influx or an increase in requests from people getting into this industry in preparation for oil and gas?
You know, I mean, you asked that question, and indeed, ever since we have been hearing of oil and gas in Guyana, there's been a lot of excitement, a whole lot of excitement. And that excitement also has transcended to Maritime Marine Institute. We have been having courses sometimes back to back because of the interest that has been aroused in persons wishing to enter into the oil and gas industry. And it is good to know that persons who are interested, it is so simplified for them that Maritime Marine is able to offer them the courses that they need in order to gain entrance into the oil and gas industry. Yes, we know that within the industry, there will be other courses that are specific to the oil and gas industry, but the fundamental courses that those persons need are available at Maritime Marine Institute. And so there are some months where we'll be having 2 or maybe 3 courses because persons have come and are continuing to come to the doors of Maritime Marine to be trained, to be certified in order to gain entry into the oil and gas industry. Even in saying that, I must also encourage, and I will continue to encourage persons to make your way to MatPal, because there is need for you in the oil and gas industry. You know, Guyana as a nation, we have a small population. The oil and gas industry is vast. I think maybe even larger than Guyana's population, correct. So to speak. Correct. And so every person who is available needs to know that there is a place for you within the maritime industry, and more so within Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry. And so I'm sure that we will continue to see persons coming, because even as we speak, more jobs are becoming available for persons within the industry. And so Maritime Marine will continue to offer the training necessary for those persons to become gainfully employed and to build, as we say, build capacity, capability, and more so build local content within Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry.
I think that it's fair to say, as you just said, that this is a new environment, and I am hoping that all Guyanese understand a lot more about the maritime industry, because let's face it, it's our new frontier. It is where most of the new jobs coming on board in Guyana are going to take place. It's going to be offshore. I would say, you know, get on a small boat, get out in the Demerara River, not by yourself, of course. Make certain that you take safety precautions, but start understanding what it feels to be on a boat out at sea, because this is where most of the jobs in the future here in Guyana are going to be heading.
You know, I must say, in addition to that, I would encourage persons, look around you. When you look around Georgetown, even Berbice, there's an increased hive of activity, and it must be attributed to something. Listen to the various television stations, the radio stations. Listen to the various programs that are aired. And you will hear coming off of the lips of almost everyone, it's oil and gas, the emerging oil and gas industry, you know. And so there's a lot of excitement. There is also a lot of misconceptions, and we will seek to assist in clearing some of those misconceptions even as we go along, because we firmly believe, and we truly believe, that persons need to be aware of what this industry holds for them, what it has in store for them, and they need to learn it the correct way. They need to be properly informed so that that excitement will be translated into pride. Pride in what will come out of Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry. This is about Guyana, this is for Guyanese, and therefore Guyanese will eventually need to feel and that sense of pride in what is happening here, because this is for us.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I don't know when it happened, how it happened, but it seems as though over the years there was a reduction, a drastic reduction in patriotism in Guyana. I remember growing up in Guyana and being proud of the national anthem and the colors and the flag, and somewhere along the line we lost that. And I think this is the ideal time to go back to those days and those places that helped us to really appreciate what we have in Guyana. Oil and gas is just one natural resource. We have so many more, and we have a unique culture where the people, for the most part, are very welcoming. We're not confrontational, and people can exploit us because of that. But for ourselves, for other Guyanese, it's a great place to be, and we need to start promoting that a whole lot more than we're currently doing. There's a lot of negativity in the community, but I think overall, we as a people need to get back to looking at Guyana and saying, this is home. I mean, I run into Guyanese overseas, and the patriotism is so exuberant that you say, wow, why isn't this happening back in Guyana? It only seems to happen when you're away from Guyana. We need to bring it back home. You mentioned STCW. I'd like to talk a little bit more about STCW, because and STCW stands for Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping. But that is a critical certificate that's required. It's now mandatory under the International Maritime Organization. And I think there are 4 sections to that training. You share the 4 sections. But I have some photographs, and I'd like to look at some of those photos and then have a discussion on what some parts of those trainings are. Because looking at it, if I am looking to get into the industry and I see a photograph like that, I might think, wow, you know, I don't think I can do that. But I think some of the photos that we do have, that you brought along, to show some of the specific training in STCW can help allay the fears for people who are currently in the industry, or not in the industry and would like to get in but are afraid. You have one particular photo of someone, I think, jumping off the pier, getting into the water, and there it is right there. Looking at that photograph, you know, I might think, I don't know if I can do this. But of course, that person's wearing a life jacket. The other person has a life ring around them. And safety is first when this is being done. So I just wanted to make that clear to people who are looking at this show and thinking about getting into the industry, that it is not as dangerous as you might think it might be while you're doing training, because there are steps being taken to ensure that you're safe while the training is going on. Can you talk some more about STCW, and because I think it's probably the cornerstone of your business? Can you shed some more light on SCCW?
So SCCW speaks to the standards that actually govern or dictate the training that is offered at Maritime Marine Institute. You know, in anything we do, we must have standards. If we don't have standards, then we're likely to have confusion.
Sure.
And so, even in the maritime industry, there definitely are standards that need to be followed, that need to be adhered to, in order for there to be a smooth running of that organization. You know, within the maritime industry, it may not be known, but at least, or let's say in excess of, 80% of the world's trade is carried by sea. And I'm going to use that as a preamble because I think our viewing public need to know. They may see vehicles on the road. They don't come by air. They may see containers with cargo being offloaded. They certainly don't come by air. You know, let's bring it a little closer to home. Even the clothing that they wear, the fabric that's used to make the clothing that they wear, it certainly doesn't come by air. And therefore, most of what we utilize, we consume, comes by sea. That also would have been governed by the STCW in some respect, in one way or another. And so the STCW speaks to the regulations, the conventions, the principles that guide training, among other aspects within the maritime industry. And it actually lays the foundation for how you need to do what you do so that you get the best out of your input. And that's basically, in a nutshell, what the STCW is about. It's about the rules, the conventions that govern certification and training, so that whatever the activities are that you're engaged on board or as you ply your trade within the maritime industry must be done in an orderly manner, in a manner that conforms to some guiding principles, so that there's a smooth operation or a smooth flow of operations within the maritime industry. And so that's what it's about. Now, you are showing, we saw the pictures just now, the little photographs of, you know, various aspects of training. And we saw some of the participants jumping over. It is always amusing for us when we have new entrants into let's say the basic safety training course, because that's one of the courses that we do most of the practicals for. And it's always amusing when we see those persons coming in. You know, we would ask them, do you know to swim? And they would say, no, they don't know to swim. So during the orientation, we would say to them, you know, for the personal survival techniques module of the basic safety training course, you are required to, you know, as we say, jump over into the river, into the pool, into the water. So they say, we don't know to swim. So we say, you're not going to drown. Because at every level of the training that we offer, safety, safety, safety is our watchword. So we would have seen there are persons who have on their life jackets, their life rings. Those are flotation devices. Those are a part of the flotation devices that they need even as they go through training. The whole point of them going through that kind of practical training is to prepare them for life on board ship. It's to prepare them for emergencies or for situations that may occur, so that it doesn't seem abstract to them. It's to allow them to become familiar with certain environments, so that when they are placed in positions where they are called upon to render assistance or to give of the knowledge that they would have gained through training, they are able to do so almost seamlessly. So that's the reason for what they do and how we do what they do. So we make it as real as possible, so that persons have that feel they have that experience, so that should there be such a situation upon which they are called to exercise or to put into practice what they would have learned, they are able to do that quite seamlessly. And so that's what we do. And so the STCW helps them in guiding them in the principles that they need to be aware of, so that what they do is done in a very transparent manner, and so that it is done in order for them to be able to function on board based on the knowledge and experience that they would have gained.
While I was stationed in the U.S. Coast Guard, I had several Guyanese who would come into my office to get seaman documents within the United States, and they would come with a book that I think they called it a Booker's book or something like that, but it was a book that documented their sea time. And is that still in place? Is that process still in place? That the sea time is documented in a book here in Guyana?
Yes. Okay. It is still in place, and that book in Guyana, we actually call it the Seafarers Discharge book.
Okay.
And it's one of the pieces of document that a person would apply for and receive from our Maritime Administration only after going through the basic safety training program, which more or less certifies them, or which says to the Maritime Administration that they have met the requirements to obtain a Seafarer's Discharge book. And of course, that book is actually seen as what we call a Seafarer's passport.
Sure.
Because it actually documents the experiences of a seafarer. So for a person working on board ship, they may have a number of years of experience, in excess of 5, 10, 15. But if that information is not documented in that person's seafarer's discharge book, then how are we sure, how can we say for sure that that person has gained the experience working on board ship? So that book actually follows a seafarer throughout his or her career.
Correct.
Yes.
It also helps them apply for higher levels
that's true.
Jobs within the industry.
That's true, because that's how it also works within the maritime industry. For as I said earlier, qualification with experience allows a seafarer to move from one level to the next. And so that experience that they have is documented in the Seafarer's Discharge book that allows them to be eligible to move on to a higher level, so that they can then become certified at that level, and then coupled with additional experience, move on. So that's how it actually works within the maritime industry.
I don't think Guyanese really understand that there are a very large number of Guyanese currently working in the maritime industry around the world. I've inspected U.S. cruise ships, and I would find several Guyanese as part of the ship's complement. We do drills, and the cruise ships require you to wear a name tag with the country that you're from, and as you walk around, you see, of course, from all the other islands, Jamaica, Barbados, but more than once you would run into Guyanese.
It's a proud moment.
Yes.
Very proud
part of that industry. I'd like to take a break and come back to share some more of what we have here in Guyana in terms of maritime training with Colleen Abrams. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back with you shortly. welcome. And we're back here on A Changing Guyana, where the change you seek begins with you. And tonight's guest with us is Colleen Abrams from Maritime Marine. We're going to continue this conversation about the maritime sector in Guyana. But I would like to talk a little bit about speedboats. I know Guyana has lots and lots of speedboats, mostly wooden. And this is unlike what you would find in most other countries, where these vessels are used to ferry passengers. I think today the building in Guyana is almost seen as a nostalgic thing, where we're building these handmade boats that has been done that way for hundreds of years probably here in Guyana. Have you had the opportunity to travel in one of those speedboats?
I certainly have. You know, the wooden boats actually in Guyana, it's almost as if it's a dying craft. I recall growing up, and I grew up on the west side, the best side of course, but on the west side nonetheless, where we were accustomed to seeing wooden boats. Those were the fishing vessels, and they still are the fishing vessels even of today. But we were accustomed to seeing them, you know, traversing the canals, going out at night, fishing and coming in the morning with the catch. And so, like the fishing vessels, the wooden fishing vessels, yes, I have been accustomed to the wooden speedboats, and I've actually enjoyed riding on the wooden speedboats. I remember in years gone by, the speedboats were probably not as safe as they are now. And, you know, I must say, thanks to heightened safety and awareness, the speedboat industry is at a much better place than where it started. And of course, that comes with progress. But indeed, gone are the days when those speedboats were allowed to, you know, traverse the rivers or main rivers without canopies, with passengers, no life jackets, you know, and you know, those are the deficiencies. Those days are long gone.
Sure.
And, you know, thanks to the Maritime Administration for the enforcement that they are actually carrying out. Also, thanks to Maritime Marine Institute for the training that we are also offering to those speedboat operators, among other local mariners, that they also have become aware that there needs to be increased safety even as they ply their trade along Guyana's rivers and waterways. And so it's quite an exciting experience. You know, you're very close to the water, you can almost touch it, but you're very safe. And so it's quite a really nice experience to have traveling on those speedboats. So yes, it's an experience I you know, enjoy. And then, as I said, even coming from the west side, it's one of the main modes of transportation for persons living on that side who work or, you know, do their conduct business within Georgetown. We also have the speedboats in the other riverine areas. We have them in the Essequibo, for Bartica, for those persons living in Bartica and further afield. That's the main mode of transportation. Then we have, even as far as quarantine, the Kanji River, the Kanji Creek. I also recall training that we have done has extended even as far as for persons at Baracara, that's along the Kanji Creek area, where what MATPAL has done is MATPAL has taken the training to those persons within those areas, because of course it is a little difficult for even them to come out to do the training. So instead of us, you know, just being centrally located, we actually take the training for speedboat operators to the riverine areas for those persons who require such training, so that they can continue to do better and to be more aware and to be more safe and to operate in a more safe environment, even as they ply their trade.
I have to second you when you say that the safety is improved tremendously. I remember a few years coming back home, and you would get into a speedboat, and people would just pick up a life jacket, put it in their laps. Now they're ensuring that you actually fasten the life jackets when you get into the boat.
Yes.
Line handling, I mean, it's gradually, when I say line handling, the way they handle the boats when the boats get into the pier, that is improved. I would see boats kind of bumping each other before, and it happens a little bit still, but I think overall safety has increased. And I guess that's normally because of the administration's policies and procedures that they've put in place.
What is also heartening to know, I should say, not gone are the days, but we hardly find incidences where speedboats collide. Even in the riverine areas, where persons would say, we grew up, on speedboats, so we know everything about it. Even for them, they are also getting on board even more as it relates to safety on board those vessels. The bowmen on those vessels, they also ensure, it's one of their tasks, one of their responsibilities, to ensure that when passengers get on board those vessels, that they are all fastened in terms of their life jackets, they're all fastened, that they don't take them off until that speedboat is safely moored on either side of the river. So, that in itself is also heightened awareness as it relates to safety within the speedboat industry. So it's very heartening. And I have no doubt that, even as Guyana's maritime industry continues to grow, that we will see more persons being less delinquent, as it relates to safety, even as we traverse our waterways using those speedboats, those river crafts.
I remember just like you did, I grew up on the west side.
All right.
And I remember having to take the Macora and the Malali over to Georgetown every day.
Yes.
And safety even back then was critical. I remember seeing a really sad occurrence one day where one of the line handlers got caught between the vessel and the pier because I guess he wasn't moving fast enough as the vessel was about to moor. I haven't seen anything like that in Guyana's recent history, so I'm certain that the steps that the government or the Maritime Administration has put in place has alleviated a lot of those issues, which is something that has to happen if we're going to continue heading down this path, especially now that you've got international operators coming into Guyana. The whole riverine terrain, the seas around Guyana, whether it's within the coastal area, the EEZ, the vessel traffic is going to increase substantially.
Yes.
So it is critical that we ensure that those safety standards that are put in place are being followed, and we understand them personally if we're going to go out there and try to do anything in those environments.
Even before you go on, not to be left out also is our Transport and Harbors Department. Because you mentioned the vessels like the Macquarie, the Malali. I mean, let me add to that, the Kupakari, the Lady Northcote, and all those vessels that worked, that we were accustomed using as our mode of transportation. The Transport and Harbors Department also, our main ferry service, our main ferry, the main operator, the main industry, the main organization that more or less organizes, helps and regulates our ferry service. They have also gotten on board. Of recent, we have had the task of training in excess of 100 of the crew members employed by the Transport and Harbors Department, and training is ongoing even with them. So, whereas they were doing training before, Transport and Harbors Department is also playing a pivotal role as it relates to ensuring that their crew members receive the requisite training, the necessary training, so that they can also do what they do more efficiently. So within our maritime industry, stakeholders are definitely getting on board as it relates to upping the ante for training and certification of their crew members and their employees.
What do you see in MathPal's future as a business? Because I know you've been doing this for a long time. What do you see for the future?
MathPal Marine Institute will continue to grow. In our future, we see partnerships, we see synergies, we see collaborations, we see an expanding of the training portfolio of the Institute, because it is being demanded that the training portfolio expands. When we see the activities within Guyana's oil and gas industry, the activities within our industry, we definitely see that there will be a need for more developmental training so that persons can rise to the occasion, so that persons can become more equipped to work on board the vessels. We see coming into the industries vessels that are more technologically advanced. And therefore, in order for persons, crew members, seafarers to actually be eligible for employment, the training needs to be further developed. And so, even as we speak, there are partnerships in the making. There are collaborations that will be heard of in the very near future, because MathPal Marine Institute will continue to do what we do, and that's to offer training and certification so that Guyanese seafarers can continue to build capacity and capability so that local content will continue to soar. It has taken off. There are places for it to go, and MathPal Marine Institute will ensure that we play a part, and we continue to play a part in seeing that local content continues to be built here in Guyana. So in our future, we see exciting times ahead. And even as as time unfolds, we will share some more of our plans for MathPal Marine with the public. They will see, even as we go along, we envisage that MathPal Marine will become a household name. And I say this because the man on the street may not have heard of MathPal Marine Institute, even though his neighbor may have been trained at MathPal Marine Institute. And so we intend that what we are offering, we will continue to create awareness. We will continue to knock on the doors of the tertiary institutions, the technical institutes, because therein lies collaboration. We will continue to knock on the doors of other institutions because therein lies collaborations. It is not something we can do alone because the industry requires each of us. It requires all the institutions to come together to actually help the industry to develop. And so synergies, collaborations, partnerships will be taking place. Even as we speak of partnerships, we know that within the oil and gas industry, it's all about partnerships. There is, even as we speak of ExxonMobil doesn't do it by itself. ExxonMobil subcontracts out its services to persons, to companies, organizations. Correct. How much more us? So we can take a page, as we say, out of their book and realize that partnerships are vital to what we do. And therefore, we will continue to partner to bring about awareness, to develop the training that we do so that it aligns itself more with the standards, the industry standards and the requirements of Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry. So that persons will not need to leave Guyana to go for that training, let's say in Trinidad or Jamaica or further afield, but that training will be here, right home on home soil, for them to be a part of, for them to take advantage of.
I think to expand on what you just said, we need to bridge our competencies. We need to share our wealth, share our knowledge as a people, as a country, bridging gender, bridging race. For us to succeed in what's about to happen in Guyana, we have to move as one. As we say in the U.S. military, it should be an all hands on deck movement. We need to come together as a country and ensure that we, as a team, are prepared to make this happen. What bit of information before we end tonight you'd like to share with our listening audience that you'd like them to take away from the discussion, the conversation we've had tonight?
For our viewing audience, I wish to encourage you to come on board. As I would have said earlier, the maritime industry, Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry, needs you. We cannot do it alone. What is happening here in Guyana, the developments that we are seeing in Guyana, is for all Guyanese. And therefore, we need each of you to come on board with open arms, with a clear thinking, because there is something for you. There is employment, there are jobs for you, there are opportunities for you to grow. And by growing, you will automatically grow Guyana's maritime industry. You will automatically grow Guyana's emerging oil and gas industry. It is vital that you come on board because everyone is needed. There's a place for each of you here within the scope of things and within the developments that we see coming to Guyana. We look at what's happening and we are excited. But you know, I've been speaking with stakeholders. I recently attended the Canada Trade Mission at the Center for Local Business Development. And during my discussions with some of those intended investors who have had the experience, the years of experience of working in Canada's oil and gas industry, they say Guyana does not fully understand as yet the vast opportunities that will exist and will continue to exist within this industry. And so I'm saying we need to come on board, not just to be excited, but to come on board, take advantage of the training and certification that is being offered, that's available for you. Do not stay where you are, because this is our own. And because this is our own, note a change is going to come, but the change has got to begin with you. You've got to be a part of the change. So come on board.
Ms. Abrams, thank you very much for what you do for all of Guyana and what you do for us. To my fellow Guyanese, thank you again for being part of another edition of A Change in Guyana. Whereas Ms. Abrams just said, a change has to begin with you. I hope you learned a little bit more tonight about what's taking place in our Change in Guyana. And you can join me here again next Wednesday on Safe TV Channel 2, when we will hear from members of the Guyana Chamber of Commerce and Industry about what they are doing to help Guyana change. If you have a question or comment about tonight's show or anything in general, drop us a line at our page, Ames Guyana, our Facebook page, Ames Guyana. If you're in need of our services, which include maritime and oil and gas consultancy, you can visit us at 118 Common Street in Kingston, or you can call us at 227-2179, 621-5925, or 661-2828. Have a good night, and thank you for joining us again. Bye.